Hello everybody, welcome to Hobo's Hollow. You know, I don't know the map author offhand, but I do know the author of the farm that's in here. Today is January 31st, 2026, and this time of year, causes me to reminisce and think back, and honestly, I feel a little melancholy, and part of it is remembering a friend. And I know he was a friend to so many of us, and I guess I haven't been back to this particular map in probably a year. It was last year about this time that I was in here. So really, when I look at the farm here, not much has happened in it. The crops haven't grown because I haven't been in here, because I have to admit, when I come in here, I feel strange. And it's memories that hit me, starting, with the sign here on the road, A&A Farms. And of course, the friend that I speak of is Atomic 67. He was a friend to so many of us, and he tragically passed away 3 years ago today, if I have my dates correct, this being the 31st. And each passing year, I've kind of made a trek back to this farm. I don't even play farming sim as a general rule. Any that of the two people that follow my channel know that I tend to play some of the older farming sim games. That's kind of where my heart is at the moment. But this is beautiful in here. And now we're even beyond Farm Sim 22. I really should be giving, the newer versions of the game a chance. And yet so much has been of my time has been just reminiscing, and maybe part of it is due to one of the A's here in A&A Farms. This sign was created by Atomic 67, so he's one of the A's, and I was the other A. I am AK, and we were going to have a farm together. The map here, as I announced, is Hobo's Hollow. And, this was all Atomic 67's idea. I don't know that anybody has tried this, where he said, let's set up a farm and I will do an episode on YouTube, then you can do an episode, then I will on the same farm. And the idea, of course, was that we would pass the save game back and forth, and we were able to do it. We were able to do it just a couple times before he passed. And I really only think he ever got one particular episode out. And honestly, I think he was pretty much doing it just for me. Maybe he wanted to help kickstart me into YouTubing. Little did he know I would all but suck at doing YouTube or trying this avenue of entertainment that he was just awesome at. Storyteller with very few equals. He was just a natural at it. And had he lived, had his health been better, I don't know if people were aware, but the poor man, he could hardly sit, he could hardly stand. I don't know how it was when he laid down at night, but it was hard for him to be comfortable. So even, most of us would think, well, if I can't do a day job, surely I could sit in a chair and do YouTube. Even that was difficult for him. But look what he created. He created these signs, he created the farm. This is all him, that he laid it out. And he and I were going to have a farm together. And honestly, Hobo's Hollow, which is a 4X map, I probably wouldn't have picked this one but my friend did, and he made it into something, that it wasn't already. This is his touch. But I gotta say, I feel strange when I come in here, and it's almost as if, I don't know if you call it deja vu or just what the feeling is. I just feel strange. I come here, I see these bales, and a part of me wonders, well, Atomic 67, he's the one that put them all here, and he told me he was going to do something with them. And so a part of me says, well, maybe he just hasn't gotten around to it. Maybe it'll be a couple more days. Does anybody ever feel that way? When life, or death in this case, takes someone from you, and it's, I don't know, they say, I don't know who they is, psychologists, whoever, say that a person goes through various phases when there's loss, and I don't even know what all those phases are, but one of them is probably disbelief. And I gotta admit, when I come in here, there's a part of me that still can't believe that he's gone. And I know that there's several episodes in this particular series, such as it is, where I've talked about many of those things, and I don't know, it's the 31st. I just wanted to come in here mainly to spend a little time thinking about my friend. And not just my friend, like I say, so many people knew Atomic 67. He helped an incredible number of people. I am still hearing how he helped others. More of those come out of the woodwork, where he gave of himself, of time and artwork and all these things. And it's just amazing the number of lives he was able to touch. Come on, pup, come eat your food. Here comes Lincoln. He's streaking for the old dish to eat his supper. Let me head out to the field. Oh, of course, it's gotta save it. Oh, I don't know if it does this to everybody else's game. I probably should just snip this part out of the video. But, and it's sure taking its sweet time at it. But anyway, I just wanted to come in here and remember a friend and remember what he meant to me, and I don't know if, I suppose everybody, as they would say, grieves in a different way. I don't know that I even want to call it grief. A part of me, sometimes wonders, and you'll hear people talk this way, when they lose someone, well, he wouldn't have wanted me to worry about it or spend time grieving. He'd want me to move on, this, that, and the other. I don't know how people say things like that, with authority. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Maybe what we ought to do is be in the habit of saying some of those things to the people we love while we're still living, so that they know. But I don't know what he would say. There's been a lot of water under the bridge in the 3 years since he's passed. I don't know what he'd make of the crazy world we live in now. I don't know what he would think of Hobo's Hollow, which I basically never done anything with, other than return here once per year to kind of spend a little time here talking about him. I have no idea what he would make of all that. What I do know and what I've learned over time is, maybe it's one of those things where a person would say, well, duh, that's obvious. But I don't know that it is. I was just visiting with my wife about it actually not that long ago. I go to work every day. This time of year, we're particularly busy, and I've spent many, many years at my vocation honing skills. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the best at my occupation. Far from it. I would say I do a passable job, and I've always believed, that the day will come when it's time to hang up my hooks or whatever you say, however you'd say it. And I've always been of the belief that when that day comes, or if I fell over, got run over by a bus, whatever, that there are more than enough people who could come in and replace me, do what I do. And so a part of me, has kind of lived life with the notion that, we're replaceable. And maybe part of it is an attempt to try to be humble about it. There's lots of people out there that believe they're irreplaceable. But then as life has gone by, and, I'm north of 50 years of age as I record this, and having now experienced, it seems like, the older you get, there's people you care for who, particularly family members or whatever, that start departing the planet. And it's just, we know this is going to happen. It's part of life, or death, as you would say. But they're people you care for. And this is the duh part, when you start seeing these people go and then realize that they truly are irreplaceable. There is nobody. For example, I don't have a grandparent anymore. Well, I have a step-grandparent. What I mean is all my true grandparents are passed away. There's no replacement. They were the people who they were, and nobody, I don't care how good they are, can take their place. I think of my mother and my father, and I'm so thankful I still have them with me. But there's nobody that is ever going to replace mom or dad. And I think it's the same with friends. And I don't know, maybe I'm thick in the head, naive, whatever you want to call it. I'm just bumbling along, trying to figure out life, with everyone else. But to come to the conclusion, it's one of those things where something can be true and false at the same time. Maybe that's it. Where, yes, someone can come in and replace me at my occupation, but to my kids, I'm dad, and there's nobody that will ever be that to them, even if I would be replaced. And I just think of Atomic 67 and everything he was, and there's no replacing him. It's, I don't know, just I don't even know hardly what I'm saying. Maybe it just sounds like babbling. Maybe a person hopes in terms of trying to come to terms with life, when these things happen. Kind of like I was explaining a little bit earlier where, the farmyard, well, maybe Atomic 67, maybe it's just a cruel joke, and he'll be back, and he'll take care of those bales, or that field that he said, I got plans for it, so don't do anything with it. Maybe he'll be back. And it's, I don't know, I can't possibly be the only one that has silly thoughts like that, to where you just don't want to accept, that something has changed, and it's never gonna be how it was. One of my kids kind of has it's really a sad quote or a sad saying, and he'll bring it up at sometimes the oddest times, but it's true, where he says, there was a last time that you and a friend, went outside and played in the sandbox, and nobody knew it. And it's true. there was a last time. I used to have this thing with my kids where, I don't know why it probably drove my dear wife nuts because it made marks on her ceiling. I would pick up our kids when they were little, and it was just one of those dad things I would do. I would hold them up to the ceiling, and I would walk their little feet on the ceiling and tell them, here, we need to walk on the ceiling over here. I don't know why I did it. Just a silly thing. And of course, you can only do that when they're little. But there was a last time that I did that with my kids. And I don't know when it was. Just one of those things that just kind of happened and nobody knew at the time. But there was indeed a last time. And, one of the things I went back and probably one of the things that makes it painful, to lose a friend. Atomic 67 was he was a real life person, of course, but he was a digital friend mainly. We talked a couple times on the phone. I had the privilege of going to see him when he and his wife lived in Arizona. We were taking a cross-country trip, our family. We were down in the area. We went through Nevada and Utah. We visited a national park. I wanted to take my kids to see Hoover Dam, and so we were passing through Arizona. And the Grand Canyon. We went to see that too. So we were passing through Arizona, Phoenix, and the area where he lived down there. I seem to recall, maybe it was a 4-hour drive to the south. It was out of the way. We were going to head east over to Kansas. We had a daughter that lived there and her husband at the time. But I knew he was down there, and I called him, and actually I think this was before we even made the trip, and he wanted to see us if we were in the area, and he wasn't sure if I was too far out of the way, and it's like no. And boy, I am so glad now we took time to go down there. And it I think I've described it before, but everything you hear of Atomic 67, when you go and listen to his videos, when you hear him talk, and of course that's how his voice sounds in real life, but his personality, his sense of humor, everything that you hear in his videos, that's him. And he's sharing a part of himself and putting it in all these videos, that he left for all of us to enjoy. And just as we would hear him on the videos, so he is, or was in real life. That one time that I got to go see him. And it's kind of like I shared that quote my son said. I had no idea that would be the one and only time, I would get to see him. It just was. And, I think back, like, what if I hadn't taken time to go there, just the regret I would feel, missing something or what have you. So I'm really thankful we happened to be down there, that we set up a time, to meet, and I got to meet his wife too. She's a peach, and meet the better half that's behind the man. And I've maintained contact with her too, and if I can sit in here and reminisce over the loss of a friend, I can even complain in these videos about what it feels like, and I'm just talking things that I know others would feel, but to her the pain has got to be way far greater than anything I or any of the rest of us would feel. So I've tried to maintain some contact with her, and I consider her now a really good friend, and we've tried to meet up a couple times too. But anyway, I didn't know I'd have that one time, and like my son said, I didn't know that one time would be the only time and the last time, and so I'm glad we took that opportunity. And at the time, I remember, because maybe part of it is I don't have a lot of friends, and probably most people, if you ask them if they have a lot of friends, that's probably what they would say. And don't get me wrong, I come from a huge family. I go to a wonderful church and have lots of good relationships there. But there was just something about Atomic 67 that was different. Where you have someone, and like I say, it was in the digital realm. We texted each other. We used this app called Discord, where we were really in constant communication. I mean, I have that app on my phone, although I didn't at the time. So I have it on my home computer, I have it on my work computer, and those are the two primary areas, where I spend a lot of time, particularly my work office. And it wasn't uncommon at all. The middle of the workday, one or the both of us, something would come to mind, and we would just ping the other one and say, hey, what about this? Or we'd get into some conversation about just about anything you could think of. I mean, we covered it all. And anyone that has interacted, with Atomic 67 before knows kind of what that interaction would be like. Atomic 67 had very strong opinions, and probably most of us do. But he was a type of person who didn't mind sharing exactly what was on his mind or what he thought of a particular subject, and he was the type of person you could talk to and share your heart on something, and even if he disagreed with you, you could still leave the table as friends. And that is so refreshing and so different from how, I mean, I wonder if our nation, if public discourse used to be more like that. I mean, it just seems anymore that society's become so cliquish. Oh, well, you voted for that person. Well, that means, or you belong to a certain political party, or you believe in God. Well, therefore, I can't be your friend, or we can't associate with each other because I mean, in some ways it's really ridiculous, just at the point that we've gotten to. But I think Atomic 67, he was just a type of person, I think he could have talked to anybody and shared strong opinions, had strong disagreements, and still found a way to be a friend with someone if you were willing to be a friend to him. And I know there were probably some people he upset. There was people probably who that kind of persona turns off. I get that. Probably any one of us, we're never going to be friends with the whole world. But I will say this about him, as strong and as opinionated as maybe he could be, he had a really tender heart for his friends. And I just remember some of the expressions and things he shared with me. He just was an old school gentleman in so many ways, where he was the guy, I guess you could say you could have no better friend and no worse enemy than Atomic 67. He's the guy you always want to have on your side. And I truly believe that, if he had lived, and if I ever got into some kind of trouble, life-threatening danger, that he would have been up and behind me like a bulldozer to help me out. And I truly believe that's the kind of man that he was, because when you were his friend, I think that's how how he saw you. He was there to truly be a friend. And yeah, that makes the loss of someone like that hurt all the worse. And here 3 years later, I am still, kind of as I sit here and talk about it, trying to process through it as a man now. And I haven't lost my parents. I haven't lost my siblings. I haven't lost a child. I have 4 children. I haven't lost my spouse. But some of those things are probably coming next. I've lost all my grandparents. I've lost aunts and uncles. And kind of like I said at the beginning, there are no replacements. Each loss is permanent, and as much as any of us maybe would even like to think we're replaceable, and maybe in the workplace we are, but to those we love, we aren't. And so he's gone, and yet he still lives in my mind. And maybe that's how it is, with a friend or family members that we care for, that we've lost. The good Lord still gave us memories, and while the memories can hurt, they are also a sweet tonic that tell us that we've actually lived. My wife teases me sometimes that the only friends that I have are in the UK. And it's true, I do have some friends, I'm skipping some areas, who are in the UK that I've thoroughly enjoyed, interacting with. But I don't know, friendships are hard. You never know when there's gonna be that one person or whatever where you just click with. So anyway, I a big part of it, I don't even know what I'm saying. I mean, it's philosophy, it's things I grapple with. It's just a fellow human being with anyone else who sits here and listens to this. Say whatever comments you want. Call me soft in the head if you want. But if you do, tell me how you deal with this. And it's hard, even as I think I've shared before, I'm a Christian, and so my personal beliefs are, especially for fellow believing Christians, I believe that when we pass from this world to the next, that those of us who are believers in Christ, we will be with Him, and we will be with others who also believed in Him. And so to me, I live, with that hope. So it takes the sting out of things like death, at least some of the sting. I ain't gonna say, that it makes it easy. But when you earnestly believe, that it's just temporary, and you're gonna see that person again, that special person, and you're going to be with them forever, well then, what's 10 more years? What's 20? Well, shoot, what's 100 years? It's, I mentioned I'm north of 50, and the years have gone by just like a drop in the bucket. I mean, it's so quick. And so when you live with that hope, it does help, when you lose friends, especially if they were fellow believers. I think Atomic 67 was. That helps. But it still hurts, in the day-to-day when you got memories and you'd love to talk to some of these people again, and you can't. And it's just one of those things that pretty much all of us at some point or other, we gotta come to terms with. because sooner or later, we're going to experience some kind of loss, that's going to set us on our heels and make us think about a whole lot of things. And I know oftentimes, we're blessed, with the modern things that we have, so we can go listen to Atomic 67's videos, still hear his voice, and I know it was common for him, especially signing off videos, to wish everyone to have a good day, and I guess all I would say or try to encourage people is, life is so short. If you love someone, tell them. Give them a hug and tell them again. And don't stop telling them that, because, you never know when, today is going to be your final day on the top side, as it were. So tell them you love them. Tell them you care and what they mean to you. Because the time is coming when you may not have opportunity to do that. Maybe that sounds morbid. I just think, personally, it's a better way to live life. It's part of living with gratitude. And it's one way to express appreciation for the people you're traveling through life with while you're still alive. Once you're gone, it's too late. So anyway, everybody heard the bell go off that I still have it after all these years. I kind of started this journey of YouTubing at kind of just a random thing, but it really was under the tutelage of Atomic 67. And I'm a terrible student. I'm wherever he left me. That's why I wonder what he would say if he could come back and see what I'm doing or not doing and say, what are you thinking doing this? That isn't what I taught you. Hey, yeah, but it is what it is. And one of the things he gave me was a timer. It's this little cow-shaped thing, and it up to an hour. And so I've just resolved to use it. Those who listen to my videos know that towards the end of them, you pretty much always hear the cow buzz or whatever. It was a gift from a dear friend, and I still continue using it to try to keep these episodes, at 30 minutes. So, without much further ado, I think I'm going to sign off this particular episode. I came in here, I wanted to remember my friend. Maybe I'll make another episode here. I'm not real sure. But Atomic 67, you're still dearly missed. There is no one that replaces you. And I do hope to see you again someday. Thank you, everyone, for coming and listening to me babble on a little bit. I'm sure many that listen here also appreciate Atomic 67. But again, hug your friends, those you love and care for. Make sure you tell them so that they know. Thank you for listening, and God bless you all.